welcome to another exciting episode of the Way Up podcast with your host, Geoff Knoll. Today, we're joined by Tim Arrigo, the force behind Beyond Driven. Tim's story is a roller coaster from Orange County, California's punk rock scene and the dark grip of addiction to coaching men to face their pain and transform their lives. He's not just a survivor, he's an inspiring success story, helping countless men break free from the bondage of addiction. Stay tuned for a powerful episode. The Way Up podcast is sponsored by me. I'm a real estate broker in the state of Missouri, and I believe that this message is worth my investment. Hang with us till the end. I know you won't be disappointed. I'm really excited to be here today. I've got my friend Tim Arrigo, and I'm using the word my friend very loosely. I feel as though I kind of know you because I watch your content pretty regular. I found you in my TikTok feed. So you're marketing, you're putting yourself out there. You are getting all over the internet, which is fantastic because you have an incredible story, Tim.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's humbling, man. So I feel the same way, man. Likewise. With anybody that I'm connected to online and social media, it's a family, man, so if you're connecting with me and you're connecting with what I'm putting out there, it's like, we're obviously cut from the same cloth, and obviously, we're a family, That's the cool thing about the internet.
It is a cool thing about the internet. And I'm in Missouri right now. You are, where are you at?
California, Southern California.
That's what I thought. Okay. So I have been watching this stuff, and my first impression, I just want to tell you, and I think it's probably something that draws people to you, is I look at this neck tattoo. Looks maybe straight out of prison. And what I think is so powerful about it is your look, I guarantee, brings people to, they're going to watch. They're going to listen to what you're saying. And the words that you're saying don't match somebody straight out of prison. They match somebody who has purpose, who is living their life to their calling of what you're created to be. And that is so inspiring. And I just know, I see it happening in real time, but I know that you are going to have a massive impact on the people around you that are paying attention, that are seeing you do this. So thank you for, one, just taking the opportunity to lean into who you were created to be. I've heard some of your story just because I've kind of got sucked in and watched content, and I've heard your story on other podcasts, but I want to have you just share your story today. Tell my listeners who are going to become your listeners. I want you to share your story of kind of your upbringing and where life has taken you and what you've made with what you've gone through.
Yeah. Well, it's a big story. It's a long story, and it has a lot of twists and turns. But, the gist of the story is basically I was, raised in Southern California, kind of immersed in the California culture in the early 90s. Kind of started with skateboarding and music. That was kind of the culture during that time. It was heavily influenced by music and skateboarding and surfing. And, growing up, I played music. My brother and I fell in love with, Metallica and Pantera and Megadeth. And so we kind of fell in love with music, and we started playing guitar. We started playing bass guitar, drums. Taylor Hawkins from the Foo Fighters was actually my drum teacher as a kid. So we were really into the music thing, and skateboarding and music kind of went hand in hand. And in the early 90s, skateboarding kind of went away from vert skating. It kind of went away from ramps into street skating. And we were kind of part of the emergence of that street skating kind of culture and scene. And, drugs in a lot of ways, they didn't lead, skateboarding didn't directly lead to drug use, but obviously there's resources in that community. And, drug use, partying was kind of part of the culture, was part of the scene. Like anybody else, I had some stuff going on in my house. I had some trauma that was going on at home. I had, My house wasn't exactly the place that I like to be or like to stay or like to spend time in. And looking back now, I didn't know that there was kind of the perfect recipe, so to speak, that Molotov cocktail. I didn't know that, when you lit that wick, right, or you use those drugs for the first time, that thing was going to explode the way that it did. And at an early age, I kind of went to multiple high schools due to some of the, turmoil that was happening at home. My parents kind of split freshman year. I went to a private Catholic school, and I went from that Catholic school. I was already kind of smoking weed, messing around, like just having fun with my friends. And when I went to that Catholic school, was really when I fell into like a dark depression, and I just started getting angry, and I kind of I turned into kind of an angry person. And this was that freshman year. I wasn't a jock and I wasn't a nerd. I wasn't in sports. I wasn't in scholastic. So I kind of ended up just kind of a loner. And that was where some of that anger, it was really pain, but it manifested in the form of anger. And then I ended up taking it out on myself. I ended up just ingesting drugs, getting addicted to hard drugs. And I went from that private high school to public school, got removed from public school because of some instances that happened in public school, and then got sent to a continuation school. And in that continuation school was where I got introduced to methamphetamine, pills. And I got out of, I graduated from that school. And before I graduated that year, I went into, at 17 years old, went into a meth psychosis and got sent to a psych ward and was in the psych unit for about a week. Came out, went to my first treatment center at 17. Was scared to death of using methamphetamines again. So I started using pills. And right around that time where I started dabbling in pills, trying to get my act together, I had a knee injury that required surgery. And I blew my knee out at the beach surfing. And board came up, my foot slipped off the front of the board, knee went sideways, blew my ACL out, MCL got torn, meniscus torn. So I went to the doctor, and this was right at the peak of the Oxycontin epidemic. So I was like the poster child for the opioid epidemic. And I got that prescription, and it was wheels came off, man. Wheels came off the car. Started doctor shopping, started selling prescriptions. The typical story, man, that we hear all across America. And out in California, it was the wild, wild west. So you could basically, you could purchase doctors' phone numbers and doctors' contact information and just exploit the doctor. So we were just running amok, burning up and down the coast, filling prescriptions at multiple different pharmacies, burning every doctor that we could. And eventually it turned into a heroin addiction. And no joke, man, like 22 years old, I had a needle hanging out of my neck in a Starbucks bathroom, like legitimate needle in my neck at 22. And eventually I got hepatitis C, and it comes with the life, man. And things got darker and darker and darker and darker. I actually have a documentary coming out if anybody's interested in knowing the details of the whole story. It's called The Threshing Floor, and it'll be out probably in about the next couple months. Right now it's going to some film festivals. It's going to be showing, and then it'll be widely available to the public. But yeah, I got hepatitis C, man, and I had seen one of my best friends die from hepatitis C. He was an older guy, a little bit older than me. He was like a father figure to me. And he died from hepatitis C, and I had kind of watched that happen right in front of my eyes, man. A guy that I loved, a guy that was like my best friend. I was there when he took his last breath, and a lot of my friends died and went to prison. And I got the hepatitis C, and I got on interferon, which is kind of similar to chemotherapy. And they did away with that now. It's considered to be kind of an inhumane way to treat hepatitis C because it was so brutal. It was a 48-week treatment that had a success rate of, I think, less than 30%.
Oh,
And
wow.
a lot of people commit suicide on it. A lot of people just didn't finish the treatment because of the side effects were pretty intolerable. Um, I weighed about 125 pounds. I was on the interferon. I was on methadone. I was on Xanax, and I did a grassroots detox at my house. And that's where I met Jesus Christ. I encountered the Lord in that detox, and my life was radically transformed. I was never the same. I gave my life to the Lord on my hands and knees, in my boxers, hands. I was laying down on the ground, hands in the air. I said, Jesus, if you're really real, come into my life. I said, you can kill me. I said, do whatever you want with me. I said, I'm yours. I'll serve you for the rest of my life. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Just come into my life and change me. If you're really real, you can have my life. And immediately I had this calling on me. It was like I could not get away from it. At the time, I was a barber, so I was just cutting hair, and I would go to the shop every day, and I was feeling this insane anxiety. Like, man, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, I'm supposed to be doing something. I'm supposed to be helping somebody. And I just had this like thing on me immediately. It was like, oh, within the first couple days after the detox, after I came out of it. And I got a job in at a substance abuse facility. I got a job. The only job they had was a graveyard shift. And I got a job at that graveyard shift at that facility as a graveyard shift. And ironically enough, it was the home they put me at was the Christian home, which is such a funny thing. You know, of course, no coincidence, right? They put me in the Christian one-to-one facility they had that was a Christian facility. So they put me there. I'm the graveyard shift. 2 weeks into my job there, I showed up there at about 11:30 for my shift change. And I'm brand new, man. I'm like newly sober too. Like, you know, I didn't even have, some of the guys at the facility had more time than I did, right? I kind of fibbed about the amount of time I had, right? And kind of got the job because I just wanted to help people so bad. I was so hungry. I just wanted to help people. And there was a gentleman outside one night. And this was the experience that really catapulted where just my whole journey. He was outside and had a black trash bag with him, and I walked in the office, the staff office, and I said to the staff, I said, hey, what's going on with that guy outside? And they're like, oh, that guy, F that dude. And I'm like, F that dude. I'm like, I thought we were helping people. And they're like, oh no, man, he's trying to leave. And this is super common, like in substance abuse and mental health. People want to leave against clinical advice all the time. They want to leave against medical advice. They just get impulsive. They just want to get out, right? They get stir crazy and they get, they just get cravings and they want to go. So they're like, yeah, I mean, the owner came by and talked to him. We tried to talk to him. It's like talking to a brick wall. Just don't worry. Just let him go, dude. He wants to do his thing. You can't stop him. And I just said, can I talk to him? And they're like, yeah, if you're wasting your breath, bro, go ahead and talk to him. So I walked outside and I just connected with the guy, and I just had a conversation with him. I just kind of had a heart to heart. And I just said, hey, man, like, I know where you're at. I know what you're going through. And I just empathized with the guy, and about an hour later, after our conversation was about an hour long, he was walking past the window with his bags, like, walking past, and everybody was like jaws dropping. They're like, dude, what did you say to him, dude? Like, you're brand new. Like, what did you say to the guy? And I said, honestly, I didn't really say anything. I said, I didn't drop anything profound on him. I just related to the guy. I just let him know like he could go and that's an option for him. But I just wanted to like, just let him know that somebody cared, man. And I didn't really think anything of it. But the next day I came back to work, and he was waiting for me outside. And he's like, hey, he's like, I was waiting for you, man. And he had tears in his eyes. And he's like, hey, he's like, if it wasn't for you and what you said to me last night, he was like, I was going to go get high and it was going to be all bad. And I just want to say thank you, man, for just helping me and just caring and just not trying to keep me here, but just telling me that you care, dude. And he's like, that's all I really needed. And it hit me hard, man. And I walked back into the office, still hits me when I talk about it, dude. And I walk back in the office and I'm sitting there and I'm kind of like, it's the shift change. It's, it's graveyard shift. It's 1 a.m. It's completely quiet. Everybody's gone. It's pitch black outside. And I'm staring at this wall And I remember I was like kind of high, and I'm like, man, I'm like, I felt really good. And I'm like, I want to do that again. And immediately the thought that came into my mind was, if you want to give more, you have to be more. If you want to give more, you have to be more. Because I realized in giving, there is receiving, right? That the law of reciprocity, and that, like, I helped that dude, but I got blessed because of it, you know? And I got high. I
Yeah.
got high on the fact that I could be of value, that I could be of service, that I could make a difference. And I always, in my pain, and in my trauma, and in my struggles, I always had these moments of like, I know I have something in there, but I just don't know how to access it. And I think I was really frustrated about that for a lot of years. Like, I don't want to sit in a cubicle. I don't want to have this like 9 to 5 like grind where I'm not doing anything. I'm just like checking a box. Like, I want to live, and I want to help people. I want to make a difference. And I if you want to give more, you have to be more. And then I realized that everything that I did to improve myself had the ability to help another person. Right. And that setting was the perfect setting for that, because what you have is, you have people that are coming in and they're looking to somebody. They're looking to somebody to model for them who they should be, or where they should be, or teach me, man, how to live. And that started my journey on, I'm going to dress better. I'm going to be more well-spoken. I'm going to be smarter. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to be a better communicator. I'm going to know more about this. I'm going to know more about the brain. I want to know more about psychology. So I just became obsessed about my personal development journey and becoming better so that I could help more people. And that took me through the ranks of, graveyard shift to then the morning shift. And I just outworked everybody. I just outworked everybody around me, and went from the morning to the swing, went to shift lead, program manager, program director, started building programs, started doing outdoor programs where I would take guys out in the middle of nowhere camping for 3 days, and I would just dig in on all their pain and all their stuff. And I worked with some of the top, psychiatrists, psychologists, PsyDs, licensed professional counselors, marriage and family therapists. And I realized that a lot of clinicians kind of hid behind their credentials. They kind of hid behind their credentials. And I realized that at the end of the day, like, it wasn't my credentials that made me so effective with the guys. It was that I'd been there and I had lived it and I understood it. And I could talk about it in a way that they were like, dude, I don't know what it is, but the way when you talk to me, like, you're making sense. And when you talk to me, like, I feel like you're telling my story, bro. And then that turned into, eventually down the line, building out programs. And then it turned into Beyond Driven. It turned into helping guys on a higher level, just in terms of it. All the pain is the same, whether it's coming from marriage, whether it's coming from drug addiction, work addiction, any addiction, the pain, the trauma. When you study it and you work with it long enough, what you come to realize is it all comes from the same place. It comes from the same places inside of us. And it doesn't matter who you're helping. That homeless guy on the street, a lot of his core problems, his root of his issues are the exact same as that executive who's making, $500,000 a year. It's all the same, and it comes from the same place. And the more that you work with people, and the longer that you work with people, I've been doing this well over a decade. The longer that you do, what you start to realize is it's all the same. There's nothing new under the sun, man. And I think that people are starting to wake up to that and realize that wow, it's called the human condition, and it all goes back to our pain. And if we don't truly address our pain, then we're never going to get better.
Well, what I love about your story, lots of key things, but the fact that you recognize and acknowledge that it's really because of your past, the the path that you chose to go is why you are capable. That's what qualifies you. That's what puts you in this position. Everything that we go through in life is intentional. It's on purpose. It is part of God's plan. It seems like such a cliche thing to say that, God has a purpose for everything, but it's true. Even the bad stuff that feels like it sucks so bad. And I'm sure you can vouch that it sucked a whole lot. There was a lot of very unpleasant times,
Yeah.
but it was part of your purpose. That was part of the grand design, because Tim, to be who Tim is created to be, needed to experience that. You needed to walk in those shoes. And because of that, God is positioning you in the right places and getting you in front of the right people to where you're able to impact and make a difference in so many people's lives. I was thinking this morning, I was walking around my garage, and I don't know if you do this. I try to make time every day to just sit and think. I read the book Think and Grow Rich a few years ago, and he talks about the importance of sitting with your thoughts and meditating. And so I like to do this. And this morning when I was thinking about legacy, leaving a legacy, and the idea of leaving a legacy for a lot of people is just making a whole bunch of money so that your grandchildren's grandchildren don't have to work, which is horse crap, in my opinion. It's horse crap. Sure, I would love to make a lot of money. That'd be great. But the legacy is what you pass on to your children. You have little boys, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the legacy of them getting to see, they only know dad as a success story. But as you tell them, this is where I was. I haven't always been here. There's no reason on earth that I should be in the position that I am, but God had a calling and God had a different plan. And I think that's so powerful that you have that. That is a legacy you're going to leave. And the people that you're helping, who are they going to touch? What is their transformation in their life going to do? How many people is going to be affected by this? That's incredible, man. It's exciting. So that's the stuff that I think about. I'm like, you know what? If I can help one person, if I can make a difference to one person, this legacy goes far greater than my imagination is even possible of comprehending.
It does. It does. And sometimes like in terms of legacy too, sometimes we don't consider that. And this took me a long while to realize that, sometimes we look and we think, we look at a person and we think like, oh, this person and what this person did and the damage that this person caused. And, and then we don't really consider the fact that, a lot of it's not about that person. It's about patterns. It's about generational stuff that's come through our bloodline. And it's like, it's not about one person. It's about conditioning. It's about, epigenetics. It's about the effects that have, and the cyclical patterns and the lifestyles and the cycles that have come through from men from previous generations. And, the reality is like, you could be a cycle breaker, but even in that same token, even if you break the cycle, like those patterns have still affected you in terms of your conditioning and your behavioral patterns. And there is no perfection here. Like the goal is just to improve and be better, because that's what we're all striving to do. It's like every generation to be better than the previous generation. And I think more and more and more men, if you look at, even men from the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, like, our dads and our grandfathers, is a totally different generation, man. And I think that as we evolve as people, as we evolve as human beings, it's important that we look at becoming multidimensional as men, like that it's not just about, hey man, like show up the way in my marriage that I show up at my work, or show up with my kids the way I show up with my employees, and just, I just provide. And that's the problem, is that a lot of guys, and I talk about this a lot, and actually talk about this in reference to something that I call performance-based love. And performance-based love is, as men, we grow up learning that love is not unconditional, that love is conditional. It's a lot of times predicated upon, the fact that love is something I got to earn. It's something I got to work for, and something I got to prove I deserve. And as a result of that, what happens as we grow up is we learn to experience love, or try to earn love or prove we deserve love through work, through validation, through affirmation and recognition from the outside. And so a lot of times we feel like providing is love, which it is, right? But there's this whole other side, which is people really just want to connect with the authentic version of us. And a lot of men are so trapped in their inauthenticity. And you got men standing shoulder to shoulder who are unwilling to be vulnerable with one another when they're struggling with the same issues. I mean, I've seen some of the craziest experiences ever. I've been so I did group facilitation, still do. I did group facilitation, for 10 years. And there was times where I used to do this group. It was called, I called it House of Mirrors, where you would put, basically there'd be 3 columns. So the first column is what I portray to the world, and I would write what I portray. The second column is what I hide. So all the things that I hide. And then the last column is what other people see, right? So I don't get to fill that out. Only the rest of the guys in the room get to fill that out. They get to fill out what they see in me. And what I would do is, write down everything, go up to the board, write down everything you portray. And then I would be talking about the power of vulnerability and transparency and how we need to do that, and why that's important for our healing and growth. And then he would get to the part of what he hides. And then he would always get to the very, very bottom. And he would turn and look at me and be like, and I'd be like, there's one thing, right? And he'd be like, yeah, I'm not comfortable writing it. And it's like, all right, just put an asterisk. And when we get there, we'll go over it if you're comfortable. And every single time, man, I've seen things happen. There's one time, it was a room, it was like an afternoon group, it was like 1 o'clock. I show up at the facility because I used to work for multiple facilities, so I would travel around, right? And I show up at the facility, and it's about 1 o'clock, and there's probably about 12 guys in the room, just men, just 12 guys. And we get to the end. This gentleman stands up. This guy had done 20 years in Rikers Island. This guy was a tough dude. And he was probably about like 55. And he gets up there and he turns and he looked at me and he's like, I'm not comfortable. And I'm like, it's okay, man. Just write an asterisk. And when we get there, we'll talk about it. And we get to the asterisk and he starts shaking and he's going like this. And he's having like a full-on stress reaction, right? Like the first time he's about to talk about something traumatic. And he's having this stress reaction in the room. And he breaks down and he talks about how he had been sexually abused, right? And then he talks about all of his pain and all of his anger and how it turned into this mask of hatred and anger, and how it turned into him hurting other people, and how it took him to prison, and how it took him into his drug addiction, and how it took him into all this pain. And then he's as he's saying and talking about all this, I'm looking at him, but then I see something out of the corner of my eye and I turn, and 5 other guys are having the same reaction, and they're breaking down in the room, and they're just breaking down. And I stopped and I said, hey man, like what's going on right now? And then all the other guys in the room, they're like, that happened to me. They're like, that happened to me. And then the next guy's like, that happened to me. And the next guy was like, that happened to me. And the next guy goes, that happened to me. And I'm not kidding you. You can't make this up. Like, this is, if somebody saw this happen, this would have blown their mind. They wouldn't even have been able to believe it. I saw 6 guys stand up in the middle of the room, walk into the middle of the room, gives me chills right now just talking about it, walked into the middle of the room, embraced each other in a hug, and all fell down on their knees in the middle of the room, hugging each other, crying, sobbing, and massive healing, dude. And then I would set up these chairs where I'd put the chairs in front of each other, and I would say, now you need to tell this man what you see in him, right? And so the guy would then be forced to sit and listen to what other guys would say. And man, guys are saying, dude, you helped save my life today. You gave me permission today, right? And I tell guys that all the time, like, we have the power to give another man permission, because so much of the time we don't want to talk about what's going on with us, man. Get it out, talk about it, whoever it's with, get it off your chest. Don't bury it. Don't hold on to it, because that pain is going to manifest in a lot of different ways of your life. Hurt people. It's like, yeah, we may have been the victim of something, but a lot of times when we're the victim, we become the perpetrator. And what we don't consider is how these how these things in our life have impacted and influenced our behaviors. Just because you buried it and you don't think about it doesn't mean it doesn't affect you. It shows up in your life without your consent. So do the work, man, because you'll be blessed, but other people will benefit from it too.
Absolutely. People, we all go through similar struggles. Not that we all have the same experience in life, but what I'm ashamed of myself and don't want the world to see, the things that I try to hide, that is the same things that so many people struggle with. So I love what you said about just being able to be vulnerable and talk about the things that you're going through. It gives others permission, but it's also freeing. It lets you not feel so isolated, like you're damaged goods, like there's something wrong with you. If you now have people that are relating with you and they're saying, hey, that resonates with me, that struck a chord with me, that is powerful. I love your message. I love your mission. I do want you to tell us a little bit about Beyond Driven. And I know you have a huge following on TikTok, Instagram, all the socials. So I'm absolutely going to share links so people can find you and people can watch the content. But you speak with so much conviction and passion for what you're doing because you are a transformed life. Tell us about Beyond Driven, man.
Yeah, so Beyond Driven, we're a coaching program. We're a men's coaching program. We are evolving into helping women as well. But right now, what we do is we have a coaching program. It's a coach guided process. We have proven systems. I mean, the cool thing is a lot of people think it's just me kind of on the internet and that I just kind of have this, but we've built out an extensive program, working in the clinical setting for well over a decade. I built and developed programs. So this program that we've created, this program that we've built, right, is a very comprehensive system. So we put somebody through our proven process, and the process really entails, building out their pain map, kind of unblocking the path they have towards their vision, recalibrating their emotional compass, making sure that they can apply everything we teach them, and then making sure that long term they can sustain that progress and create, as we talked about, legacy. Beyond Driven is about helping men reclaim their masculine edge, reignite their marriage, and rediscover their inner peace. It's really about, a lot of areas, including their emotional intelligence, their mindset, helping them improve their conflict resolution, their communication skills, and helping them understand that the issues that go on inside their marriage are primarily not a result of what's happening in the marriage. It's a problem. It's a manifestation of what goes on inside of them. In marriages where our deepest needs are met as human beings, in relationships, right? Especially deep, intimate relationships require a deep, intimate connection, requires deep, intimate, right? Somebody's got to know you on a deep, intimate level. So, a lot of guys, the reason they struggle inside therapy or they struggle inside marriage counseling is because they've never actually gone deep enough to understand that the more they understand themselves, the more self-aware you are, right? The more aware you become of what other people go through. So it's like you begin to have X-ray vision if you understand you. So the longer that, and the more in-depth understanding that you develop about your own self, you begin to look at people and you no longer see kind of what appears to be the problem. You begin to see, right, not what things appear to be, but what they actually are. And because you are able to look inside yourself and realize what a lot of your problems are connected to, gives you the ability to speak to others' problems on a deeper level too. So that's the benefit a lot of people don't realize, especially men, like doing this work is a lot of guys are like, man, I'm afraid, like, am I become like am I going to become somebody I don't want to be? And it's like, no, man, you're going to become multidimensional. You're going to be able to meet the moment, whatever that moment most requires from you. If somebody attacks you or your family, that requires violence from you. You better be prepared to defend yourself, man. As men, we should be able to do that. But, there's moments where your daughter's going to be, hurt because something happened in school. And that moment requires compassion and empathy from you. There's moments that every moment requires a different version of us. And we should be able to insert, right, a tool into that moment, deploy a technique or strategy into that moment to be able to handle that moment most appropriately. That's what makes us comprehensive as men. So, not just one dimensional. So Beyond Driven is about really helping men become multidimensional, helping them tap into their full potential, and helping them actualize their true authentic selves, right? Like, who are you authentically? Remove the masks, remove the facade, right? Remove your ego, take it all down, remove the self-deception, right? Get into a position where you're really to facilitate becoming a different version of you, a version of you that can restore his peace, find freedom, and be that authentic version of you with no pain attached to it. You're not dragging a ball and chain from your past, dude. You're taking the cinder blocks out of the backpack. Like, let's get you back to a place where you're happy, you're healthy, and everybody in your life is benefiting from your transformation. So that's really, in a nutshell, kind of what Beyond Driven is about.
That is awesome, man. I feel like I could talk to you all day. I am very grateful that you took the time to come on the show today.
Yeah,
I
brother.
really appreciate it. I just got like 3.5 minutes left before the free Zoom cuts me off of here. But
Yeah.
do you have a final thought you would leave with my listeners with?
Yeah. The greatest journey is always the journey within, man. And a lot of times we try to fix the inside from the outside. It's like, if I just had this, then I'd be. If I just had this car, then I'd be. If I just had this wife, then I'd be. If I just had this, if my business would just do this, then I'd be. And what we come to realize is you can't fix the inside from the outside. You can only fix the inside from the inside. And sometimes we don't know how to navigate that path and traverse that path. And for everybody, it's different, but reach out, man. You're not alone. And remember too, that like, you're never better than that work, and you're never not capable of that work. And a lot of the reasons why we haven't succeeded is really actually not our fault. A lot of times we just stepped into systems that aren't really designed for us. And sometimes we just need to find the right people and the right tools. And I tell every man this: all you're missing is the right people and the right tools in your life. When a man has the right tools and he has the right people in his life and he has the right mindset and he's ready to commit to a process, he can solve anything. Right. And so, especially under the authority of God. So don't be afraid of that journey. It's like a hand in glove, man. Like, God is not going to turn you. God is not going to design or create you to be something that you're not comfortable being. Right. So just remember that work is always worth it. It always pays off. And every little bit of self-investment pays dividends into other people's lives. So the greatest gift you could ever give your family is a better version of you. The greatest gift you could ever give humanity is a better version of you. And no matter how, no matter what's going on with you now, that journey might begin with you. You might think, oh, I want to be here. But eventually what you'll realize is it really wasn't really about you at all. It was about your legacy. It was about your kids. It was about your future. It was about what you're leaving behind on this planet, because people aren't going to remember, you can't put a U-Haul behind a hearse. They don't talk about how much money the dude had in his bank account when he dies. What they talk about is the way that he made them feel, the difference that he made in their lives, the lessons that he taught, right? The changes that he made. So just understand, man, that as men, that's the one thing that stands the test of time.
Well, I am so grateful. I couldn't agree with you more. Really, every word. So very grateful. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you. I'm going to continue watching your journey. I'm excited to see where you end up. But I believe you got some big things ahead of you, man.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
All right. Hey, have a lovely day, man.
Thank you. You too, bro.
Yeah, boy.